You will not believe the NFL statistic the Minnesota Vikings lead in. This isn't receiving yards or passing yards or defensive interceptions. This is one of the craziest statistics that you don't want to be a part of if you're an NFL organization. This take is presented by Hokeland Farm. Contact Hokeland Farm at 952-491-1541 and get the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. This beef is sold in quarters and halves, and they have custom sample packs so you can try before you buy. Contact Hokeland Farms today and get 20% off your first order by mentioning the Minnesota Tim podcast. Again, 952-491-1541. Get great beef in your freezers today. Okay, so this NFL leading statistic that the Minnesota Vikings lead in. Oh, this is funny. It says most arrests by each NFL team. Data collected since 2000, and this comes from Vince Wright, who is a contributor to gopherhole.com. It looks like he's a Minnesota's fan. Looks like he hosts the Sports Done Right podcast. Anyways, he came out with this graphic, and it says the Minnesota Vikings lead the NFL. Now, this was before the latest arrests by the Kansas City Chiefs players, the New York Jets players that came out recently. But it says the Minnesota Vikings lead the NFL in arrests with 55. The Denver Broncos are right behind the Minnesota Vikings with 54 arrests since 2000. Now, to put this in perspective, I'm going to be doing math right off the top of my head. It's been 24 years since 2000. It's 2024. See how I did the math there? And the Minnesota Vikings have 55 arrests. So 55 arrests in 24 years, which means over 2 arrests every single year by the Minnesota Vikings on average. Now, there are special years like the year back in the early 2000s, specifically 2005. I want to read the article. And this is how you get number 1 in NFL arrests. On October 6, 2005, an alleged sex party occurred on Lake Minnetonka with 17 members of the Minnesota Vikings football team, including quarterback Dante Culpepper, Fred Smoot, Mewelde Moore, Pat Williams, Bryant McKinney, Nate Burleson, Ralph Brown, Jermaine Wiggins, that's a name, Troy Williamson, who was then beginning his rookie season. What a way to start your NFL career. Travis Taylor, Kevin Williams, Lance Johnstone, Mo Williams, and Willie Offord. 2 houseboats were rented, and some, but not all, of the players performed sexual acts in front of crew members. Prostitutes from Atlanta and Florida were flown in for the party in order to perform the sex acts. There were at least 90 people on the 2 boats, and Smoot later estimated that there were 100 women present. An anonymous former player of the Vikings claimed that this is not the first time that such an incident has happened. The scandal has sometimes been referred to as the Love Boat scandal after the television program, or as the Smoot boat scandal in the news. Allegedly, photographs were taken at the party showing people engaging in sexual intercourse. 4 of the players were charged with misdemeanors, there it is, related to the events. So you don't get number 1 by accident, okay? You need to have these massive, not that force that massive, but you need to have an event happen where multiple players get arrested or get misdemeanors. Later, commentators pointed to the scandal as a key event in the history of the team, leading to the firing of head coach Mike Tice, who was replaced by Brad Childress, who would lead the team to the NFC Championship game in 2009. Apparently, a woman called police around 9:20 p.m. on October 6th to report that approximately 7 black men had urinated in her yard after exiting a big shuttle bus limousine, according to the transcript. The woman later mentioned that the men were sitting at Al's and Alma's, the name of the charter cruise company that the Vikings players were later alleged to have used for the party. So, this is the kind of thing that gets your team to number 1 in leading NFL arrests. And also, it doesn't hurt. Now, I'm going to be very sensitive here, but it's also true. It doesn't hurt to have Everson Griffin on your roster, who has been charged with multiple D-dubs. Now, he's had some mental health problems. Looks like he has bipolar. But does bipolar excuse you from having a DWI, multiple of them? Can you still make a good decision with bipolar? I'm sure people have. Does every single person with bipolar get a DWI? I don't necessarily think so. So, anyway, the Minnesota Vikings lead the NFL in this crazy statistic, and it is the amount of arrests since 2000. Now, maybe the Minnesota Vikings can turn it around, because this offseason, I don't know if they've had a single arrest. They might be on the comeback trail. Haters going to hate. The Minnesota Vikings could be turning the page in the amount of arrests since 2000. Maybe, just maybe, they will not lead the league in arrests. Now, the unfortunate part for the Vikings is that the Kansas City Chiefs had multiple arrests this offseason. They're only at 40. Like Rashid Rice, they just had another guy get arrested. I don't know his name. They cut him. The New York Jets, they've also had guys get arrested, which is a surprise. Well, is it a surprise? Here's a theory. The New York Jets only have 25 arrests since 2000. Did the Minnesota Vikings lead the league in arrests because you need to create more fun in Minnesota? And fun isn't just available to you easily like in New York, like in Los Angeles. I suppose this happened when there wasn't a football team in Los Angeles. But you know what I mean? Minnesota Vikings players need to let loose. And there's not a whole lot to do in Minnesota to let loose. You really got to search the crack. Love boat scandal. You got to really search the crack to let loose. And even though there's more temptations in New York, there's also more things to do. So maybe that's why the Minnesota Vikings lead the league in arrests, because there's not much to do. People are bored. They come up with these things like the Love Boat scandal to have their own fun. Anyways, that's just a theory. Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode. If you are, please hit that subscribe button right there. Remember to contact Hoagland Farm at 952-491-1541 for the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. Thank you, everyone, for making this podcast a part of your day.